What's up everyone, Andrew Bainey here, and on today's video we're going to be taking a look at this. This is the Donner Arena 2000 multi-effects guitar pedal. So essentially what this is an all-in-one guitar tone solution that is coming in at only $270 US, which is absolutely crazy. I don't think I've ever played a model or unit that is this low in price point, and I'm coming from more of the perspective of somebody who primarily uses guitar plugins and multi-effects pedals. You know, I've had them all. I've had the Line 6 Helix, the Quad Cortex, and now this. So I want to give a big thank you to Donner for sponsoring this video, as well as sending over this multi-effects unit. As for the format of this video, what I'm going to do first and foremost is show you what it sounds like in a full demo mix. Then we're going to come back and talk about all the specs and features of this multi-effects pedal, and then I'm going to show you how to create the tones as well as the user interface and talk about my experiences with this device. So with that being said, this is how the Donner Arena 2000 sounds in a full demo mix. Okay, so first and foremost, we are going to talk about the specs and features of the Donner Arena 2000. As you can see, I have it laid out in front of me right here. Before we even turn it on, we're going to talk about the actual physical specs. So as you can see, it's a little bit smaller of a unit. This is about the same size as 4 traditional guitar pedals, which keeps it nice, small, and compact, so it'll fit on a pedal board nicely. Or if you don't have a pedal board, you know, it's just nice to have a smaller unit to carry around sometimes. So on the front of the device, we have these 3 main switches down here, the A, B, and C switch. These all feel pretty solid, you know, traditional stomp box style switches that feel satisfying to press. In addition to that, we also have a mini expression pedal over here, which actually feels really solid, which is nice. The overall build of the unit also feels pretty solid. It's got this metal chassis all along the sides and the top, so it feels nice and solid, which is good when it's going to be something you're literally going to be stepping on a lot, so you know you don't want to feel like it's going to break. Next up, we have a bunch of rotary dials all over the device. Some of them are these kind of clicky ones that move into position like so, whereas some of them are smooth depending what they do. So you know, for the headphone and the output ones, these are more just like smooth knobs, whereas the ones to control different features are those kind of rotary switches that, you know, have that clicky feel, as well as this bigger one over here, which is also a rotary switch that you can also click, and you'll see why in just a minute. And last but not least, on the face, it has kind of a pseudo touchscreen thing going on. So the reverb, delay, FXB, all of these things and these are actually touch buttons. So they're not physical buttons that you can press, but they basically act as a touchscreen. The screen itself is not a touchscreen, but these are touch buttons, I guess you would call them. Last thing before we power it on here is moving over to the top. You can see we have 2 XLR outs, a left and a right with a ground lift. It also has USB-C, which is a surprisingly rare feature. You'd be amazed at how many of the newer modelers are still using the old school, like printer style USB-A, so props to them for actually going USB-C. Headphone output, auxiliary input, so you can plug your phone into here or something like that. You have an input here where you can plug in an additional expression pedal, and then of course you have an unbalanced left and right output, so if you want to plug in monitors or something like that, you can do so there. your input, which is where your guitar goes, a MIDI input, so you can actually control this entire device via MIDI if you so choose, and then of course your power switch. It's actually surprising that there is a power switch, because again, you'd be surprised how many of these units don't have a power switch and they just turn off or on as soon as you plug it in. So this is actually a nice feature to have, believe it or not. Okay, now that we've talked about all the physical specs of the Donner Arena 2000, we're going to move on to what it actually sounds like and how to make sounds with it, aka the user interface and all the stuff that's included in that. So when you turn on the Arena 2000, you're going to see that on the home screen, it's basically going to give you a visual representation of your signal path of any given preset. So you can see here, this is my 5153 rhythm preset that I made for my demo song. And you can see that I have a drive, an amp, a cab, EQ, and a noise gate. And then there's a few other options that are grayed out, such as the compressor, FXA, FXB, delay, and reverb. So the Arena 2000 actually has 100 different built-in effects, and these are things such as drives, noise gates, compressors, so on and so forth. As for amps, it has 80 different amp sim models, and then for cabinets, it has 50 different cabinet sim models, as well as the option to add 50 of your own impulse responses. This is always something that is much appreciated when a device allows you to load your own impulse responses. For people like me that are a bit more used to mixing with impulse responses that I'm familiar with, it's much appreciated that I can just go ahead and put them right on this device, which is what I did in my case for the rhythm tone. I was using one of Bogdan Digital's impulse responses, but the ones included in the device are also pretty good. In addition to that, you also have a looper, which can hold up to 60 seconds, as well as a drum machine. I'm not personally going to show off these two features because it's just not something that I personally use, but it's nice that they are there, and if that's something that you're interested in, just know that it's there as well. But for the purposes of my video, I'm going to focus on tone creation and the sounds that I was able to get. So again, if we go back to that home screen, you can see your signal path for any given preset here. If you turn the big wheel, you can see that you can actually switch the presets like so. What you also might notice is that as you scroll through these presets, it has 1A, B, C, and then it switches over to 2A, 2B, and 2C, and so on and so forth. And this is worth mentioning because if, for example, if we go back to 1A, you'll notice that A, B, and C down here actually control which of these three presets you can access within the given bank. So for example, in bank 1, you have A, B, and C. And then if we go over to 2, for example, then it would be 2A, 2B, and 2C, and so on and so forth. So now we're going to talk about how you actually control all the aspects of any given preset. So for example, we're going to go back to my 5153 rhythm preset, and again, for this preset, you can see that I have a drive, an amp, a cab, an EQ, and a noise gate. So to control any given parameter within this preset, what you actually do is click the touchscreen button down here. So for example, if I want to go into the drive, you just go to the drive pedal section, and then once you do that, you can see that the screen changes, and now I have control over the drive section of this preset. So now I have 3 different controls for my drive section, which are gain, tone, and volume, and these 3 buttons control those respectively. So if I want to add more gain, you can go ahead and do that, or reduce it. Tone is over here, and volume is over here. And then if I want to return to the home screen, you click the home button there, and you're back to the preset window. What you'll also notice here is that if you want to turn off an effect, you can go into that section and then touch it again, and you'll notice that now the drive button is not illuminated. And if you go back to the home screen, you'll see that the drive icon is also no longer colored, which means that the drive is now off. And to turn it back on, you just go back there in home, and then it's back on again. So that's pretty much how you control the parameters of every aspect of a preset. So it's going to be the same whether you go into the amp, or the cab, or the EQ, or the noise gate, or anything else really. So then the next step would be, how do you actually change what is going on? So let's say we go back to the drive. You can see that for my drive, I'm using the Tube 808 effect. So let's say I don't want to use that anymore. What we do is use the big scroll wheel here, and you can actually change the different type of drive to whatever you want. And then you just adjust your settings to be whatever you want them to be. Let's just pretend that we're going to keep them like that. And then you go home, and there you go. Now your drive within this preset is now set to the clones drive instead of the original Tube 808 drive that I had. And you can double check that by clicking the drive once again, and you'll see that now it has that setting saved to this preset as I wanted it to be. And of course, if you want to actually save this to the preset, you go Store and save the preset. Before we move on to showing you how this actually all sounds, I have one more thing I wanted to mention in terms of the controls of this device. Honestly, there are so many features that it's pretty mind-blowing, but I'm just going to talk about one or two more really quickly. So another cool thing is that when you're in a preset, you can actually click the button again, and you'll notice that it turns to be this green color, and then you can see that the B and C button actually have a different function, so they will no longer switch to preset B and preset C. Instead, they will start operating functions within your preset. Now when I click B, it switches to the tuner, and when I click C, it turns my reverb on or off. And you can actually have control over whatever these do. So within this preset, you can have B be anything you want and C be anything you want. So let's say we wanted B to turn off or on the drive instead. You would go Control, and then for B, we would want that to be something else. So let's say we want it to be drive, go ahead, and then home. And now we can see that Control B is set to drive, and now we can turn our drive pedal off or on just like that, super easy. And then if you want to go back to the original functionality, you just click A again, and now we're back to preset mode, and B will take you to preset B. And then again, click B, and now your C and A do different functions. Once again, another awesome thing about the Arena 2000 is that you can also do everything I just showed you with a Bluetooth mobile phone app, or by plugging it in via USB-C to your computer or Mac. You can fully control it, edit it, everything on your computer, which is so much easier. Not that this is necessarily hard. The user interface is actually not bad at all. I think it's, better than some of the other modelers that I've used in the past. But of course, it's way easier when you open it up on your computer. You can see everything in front of you. You get a little bit more not more options, but you can see all the options a little bit more clearly. And obviously, if you're renaming presets, it's a lot easier to type them out rather than using the scroll wheel for everything. So that's a huge bonus. And again, some of the much more expensive modelers out there still don't have a PC editor. So big shout out to Donner for actually including that and having it work really well. Okay, now that I have talked your absolute ear off with all of the specs, features, and how to actually operate the Donner Arena 2000, we're finally going to dive into making some sounds and showing you the tones that I was using in that demo video. So I switched guitars to be in a slightly higher tuning. This is now in drop B with my Arcitas 06R. So yeah, first and foremost, I'm just going to jam out a bit on the 3 presets that I made and was using during the demo song, and then I'm going to show you how I would make a tone from scratch, and that's going to be it for this video. So with all that being said, let's hear how the rhythm tone sounds first and foremost. Okay, so that was the rhythm tone I had going on for the demo song. We're going to switch over to preset B. This was my lead tone that I was using, and it sounds like this. We're going to actually just play with the settings right now because I want to get it a little bit higher gain than that. Yeah, so as you know, I'm not much of a lead player. I never really know what to do in these sections of the videos. A little bit of a bum note there, but that's all right. Next up, we're going to move over to the clean tone, which again sounds like this. Okay, so that was just to quickly show off the 3 different tones that I had going on during that demo song. I know I edited the lead a little bit there. I cheated a little bit, but I thought that the lead sounded better when the guitar was by itself if it had a little bit more gain, but you get my point. So now next up, what we're gonna do is we are actually gonna go over to a pre-existing preset. So we're gonna start out with this Fruit Clean preset on 2A. This is one of the ones that came with the device, and we're pretty much gonna overwrite it and make our own thing instead. So as a starting point, it gives us this. So probably based off of an orange, I would assume, hence, you know, fruit. So we are going to change that up. So first and foremost, we're gonna go to the amp section. We can see that we have an Apple Rock 100, which I assume is supposed to be like an orange 100 rock reverb type situation. And we're gonna change that up. So again, we can just scroll through this list of amps on here. Unfortunately, there is no way to see all of them, so you just kind of gotta keep scrolling till you see one that you like. So we got a Mexa, which is obviously kind of like a Mesa type situation. Never been a huge fan of Mesas. There's the 5153, which is what I was using on my other preset, so I'm gonna pick a different one since I already used it. What do we got here? Friedman probably, Sono SLO. This is probably a Soldano SLO 100, so let's see how that sounds. All right, that's channel 1, so that's gonna be pretty low gain. Let's go to channel 2 instead. Okay, cool, so that's a good starting point. We're gonna turn up the gain quite a bit. Let's go like 60 for now. Middle, you can usually come up. Let's go like, again, 60 for now. And we'll leave the other 2 things as is. I am hearing some background hissing noise, so we're gonna go ahead and add a noise gate right away. Clears that up immediately. We'll leave that on. Go back to the home page. So now you can see we've altered this. All I've done is change the amp to that Soldano type thing and added a noise gate. But we're gonna keep editing. So again, next up we're gonna go over to the cab section. This is based off of probably an orange 412, which is a pretty good sounding cab, but we're gonna see what else we got. What else we got here that would be good? Oh yeah, so then you can see that since I've already loaded a bunch of impulse responses on this, you can see that I've actually got into them here. For the sake of this video, I'm not going to use those because I want to show you what the included ones sound like. So let's go all the way back to the beginning and start again. Let's go Mexa OS 412, which I'm going to assume is a Mesa 412 oversized cab. Okay, so that's sounding not bad. We can actually also play with the different types of mic within this cab, so we're gonna go ahead and do that as well. Let's go all the way to the beginning with the SM57. Okay, in this case, I think the actual default option of the U47 did sound pretty good, so we'll just leave it at that. So far we've altered the amp and the cab, and we've added that noise gate in. I actually think that the noise gate can probably come up a little bit because I think that this guitar in particular is pretty noisy. So we're gonna bounce that up a little bit more just to get rid of any hiss. So the next thing that I always like to do is add in a drive. So by default, it's gonna wanna add the Tube 808, which, you know, is usually my favorite one to use. So we're gonna go ahead and just see what else is in there. So I don't want any fuzz or anything like that, but I do want some kind of overdrive or tube screamer or boost. Honestly, I think I'm just gonna keep going with the 808 here. So classic settings on a tube screamer type pedal, increase the volume and the tone to max, decrease the gain all the way. This is like what pretty much everyone does on any tube screamer. Okay, that's going to do it for this video. Once again, a big thank you to Donner for sponsoring this video as well as sending over this unit. If you're interested in picking one up for yourself, the link is going to be in the description and the pinned comment below. And of course, last but not least, a massive thank you to all my Patreon members whose names are on the screen at this point in time. If you're interested in audio downloads, guitar tabs, stems, or a shout out on the screen, you can find all of that over on my Patreon page. Thank you all so much for watching. I look forward to reading your comments, and I'll see you next time.